Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Monday, July the 5th. And I'm happy to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. It's the 30-minute live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. Chat room is open if anybody would like to go and sit in there. I'm just drinking some coffee, trying to wake up here, and have some allergies, so just bear with me here. I want to continue on with this topic of trauma, the effects of trauma, and dealing with the effects of trauma. It's a self-help guide, and we started this last week, I believe it was Friday, taking a look at the issues surrounding trauma and how hard it is for people who have survived any kind of really traumatic stuff in their life is to get over it and to learn how to deal with it. That's the thing, right? It's not often easy to get over trauma, right? It changes. I think it changes a person, right? So I want to take a look at this, and I found this at http samhsa.gov. And that's SAMHSA's National Mental Health Information Center. So that's mentalhealth.samhsa.gov. And it's a great article. They talk about the whole issue surrounding trauma, and in the introduction there they say that for many years the traumatic things that happened to people were overlooked as a possible cause of frightening, distressing, or sometimes disabling emotional symptoms such as depression, anxiety, phobias, delusions, flashbacks, and being out of touch with reality. It says in recent years many researchers and healthcare providers have become convinced of the connection between trauma and these symptoms. And they are developing new treatment programs and revising old ones to better meet the needs of people who have had traumatic experiences. And, some examples of traumatic experiences that may be causing your symptoms, they said here, include physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, neglect, war experiences, outbursts of temper and rage, alcoholism, your own or someone, or, a family member's, physical illnesses, surgeries and other disabilities, sickness in your family, loss of close family members and friends, natural disasters and accidents, all kinds of things like that, are very traumatic, right? So, and, it's hard to get through this life, for any certain period of time without experiencing some sort of traumatic event. Life can be very traumatic, and we all will experience some trauma in our life, right? So, it's just inevitable, right? And some people more than others. And, it's very, very hard for most people, if they don't have someone to talk to or someone to, help them get through the whole thing. It's very, very hard on people. It can cause, they said here, examples of symptoms that may be caused by trauma include anxiety, insomnia, agitation, irritability or rage, flashbacks or intrusive memories, feeling disconnected from the world, unrest in certain situations, being shut down, being very passive, feeling depressed, eating problems, needing to do certain things over and over, unusual fears, impatience, always having to have things a certain way, and doing strange or risky things, having a hard time concentrating, wanting to hurt yourself, being unable to trust anyone, feeling unlikable, feeling unsafe, using harmful substances, keeping to yourself, and overworking. So that's, those are some pretty serious symptoms, like pretty serious effects that, if a person survives, is a survivor of some real serious traumatic stuff in their life, it certainly does affect your life, and how, I don't know, I can't imagine that it doesn't, doesn't matter if you were abused as a child or not. Every single person will experience some sort of trauma in their life. So, but if you're abused as a child, it's even, of course you're going to experience some trauma, and then as well all the other stuff that life has to throw our way. So it's very, very hard to deal with. And that's why I like this article, because they go in and they talk about, we started actually looking at what they were saying here as far as what a treatment or a program or a treatment, sort of a treatment program would look like and what it should include, which should be, they list off here, empowerment, validation, connection, have hope, take personal responsibility, talk to one or more people about what happened to you, develop a close relationship with another person, and that's where we left off last Friday morning. So I wanted to just kind of read through those. This is a great article. And so, yeah, I'm glad you can be here. It's not a professional show. I don't hold any professional counseling certificates, therapist certificates. I'm just a private citizen who pays to do my own blog talk shows because I think, we need to talk. Every single person out there needs to raise their voice regarding child abuse. And if you're a survivor, then I just wanted people to know that they're not alone and that there is help out there, and we do need to pursue it. We do need to reach out, right? It's some not quite often will not come falling into your lap, that help would just arrive in the middle of nowhere and just fall into your lap. I mean, I used to kind of think that and wonder why certain people in my life couldn't help me, why I was still feeling the way I was after 30 years, and without realizing that it was really all up to me to make this happen, until about 3 years ago when I decided to get proactive and be the main key role in my journey to healing, right? And so, we have to do that. So that's why I wanted to do this show, One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, just to be another voice out there for people, one more survivor talking and trying to spread, and get resources and information out to people, and just to be another voice of hope for people, to stick with it and to say you can do it. And if you're a young person under the age of 18, I ask that you have someone listen to the show with you, because the whole issue is I fight for children's rights and children's lives every day, and you have to watch what you're doing online. You have to be very careful about what you're doing online. Internet safety is a huge issue, for children and young people, right? So you need to sort of have an adult listen to the show with you, and maybe an archive show, right, at another time. A teacher, counselor, a parent, someone in your family who can help you make the decision whether you should be listening to the show or not, because there's a lot of adult material on here. And so, you'd be doing yourself a favor and me a favor if you would get permission to listen to this show. And ultimately it's about stopping child abuse, and for children, but to stop child abuse. But there's a lot of adult material, so I think everyone should have permission to listen to this show if you're under the age of 18. And also, if you're a survivor, you need to be really cautious about what you listen to, because all this stuff can trigger you. And I know this on a personal level. So you have to use your discretion, and know what's going to bother you, the topic, right? And know if it's going to cause you to trigger, and, then if you believe it will, then you need to turn the show off and listen at your own discretion. It's very important. So we'll start. I know we took a look at empowerment, I think, on Friday morning, and it says the program or treatment should include the following, right? So we started with empowerment. You must be in charge of your healing in every way to counteract the effects of the trauma where all control was taken away from you. So, we have to be empowered ourselves to take control of our healing journey, right? And every time I see these websites out here regarding the whole issue of healing from trauma or, post-traumatic stress disorder or just anything I kind of happen to be looking around at where they're talking about treatments and how to get help and whatnot, they always say that it really is up to us. We are ultimately responsible for our own healings, and our own journey, our healing journey, right? And how we need to know how fast we can move. We need to know how, if we need to slow down in our healing journey, right? Because everyone's different. And so we have to really think about what is going to be good for us, you know what I mean? What we really need. And if we're feeling like we're just moving too fast, then we need to slow it down and just go at our own pace, right? That's so important. And, they go on to talk about that a little bit here, so we'll keep reading. Validation, you need others to listen to you, to validate the importance of what happened to you, to bear witness, and to understand the role of this trauma in your life. And that's so important, if you don't have anybody to talk to and you don't have anybody to validate and who understands and, can sit there and listen to what you've been through. And then, if they've been through some of it, they can try to help and offer some support, especially if they've survived some trauma that's similar, right? They would understand the situation, right? And so it's very important to have someone to listen to who can validate this, what happened, the traumatic experiences, whether it was child abuse or, a health issue or death in the family, just somebody who can listen and just try to help you and reassure you and validate that it actually even happened to you. That's the whole issue surrounding abuse, whether it's child abuse or domestic violence or sexual assault, it's a lot of times people are not believed, especially especially children, regarding child sexual abuse. That's a huge problem. And they go their whole lives being told that it didn't happen, it never happened, and of course because the abuser wants to go free, right, and not be busted. So, and half the time the family will back up the abuser because they don't want to lose their other family members either, right? So this is the huge problem for survivors of any kind of child abuse, really, especially things that are not, have actually gone by and slipped through and was never reported. Years later, survivors are sitting there thinking, I know it happened, you know what I mean? So who's going to validate it, right? The rest of the family members might be gone or, passed on or something, or maybe they're just not in touch with them, and they don't care anyway. Half the time that's the case because it'll probably be a dysfunctional family where there's child sexual abuse going on, obviously, right? I mean, this is the problem, right? It's very important to talk to somebody who can validate our experiences and help us to know, hey, you know what, I believe you, and I believe that happened to you, and we need to make sure that we keep moving forward on our healing journey so we can get some help, you know what I mean? It's so important. Connection is the next thing they talk about. Trauma makes you feel very alone. It says, as part of your healing, you need to reconnect with others, and this connection may be part of your treatment. And it says if you feel the cause of your symptoms is related to trauma in your life, you will want to be careful about your treatment and in making decisions about other areas of your life. The following guidelines will help you decide how to help yourself feel better. And so, connection, trauma makes us feel very alone. That's true, because you feel like, first of all, there's a whole emotional stuff surrounding it, and you don't know if you should really trust people or talk to people about what happened to you a lot of times, or even if you have like a health issue going on in your life, sometimes people don't want to burden other people with their problems, so they just keep it inside, right? Or death in the family, quite often, people just will not often reach out and talk to someone, right? And it's so important that we do, right? Because that's the whole issue. Just suffering in silence is not good for anyone. And but you have to be very careful about how you go about doing it, and you have to be ready. Just so, I'd always told a few people about what had happened to me, especially people that wanted to know and were interested, that sort of thing. I would talk to them about my past and whatnot. But it wasn't like talking to a counselor or therapist, you know what I mean? They would just be like, yeah, that's a drag for you sort of thing, or they would just be like, oh, well, you shouldn't be, that couldn't have been all that bad, you should be able to move on and whatnot. And I'd just be looking at them like, you want to try living 5 minutes in my shoes, you're welcome to it, because I don't think you could, you know what I mean? And these people just look at me like they had just no clue, but that's probably because they really didn't. People who haven't survived and haven't really been, through some traumatic child abuse just don't understand really what it would be like, and especially when it just goes on for so long. And so that's the whole issue. That's why it's so important to find someone to talk to, whether it's a really good friend who you trust or group support, online group support anonymously, right? You don't even have to give your real name. Just make sure you do reach out and get some help and find some support, because it's no fun suffering along in silence, you wake up in your 40s and you're like, what is going on? You know what I mean? I'm still suffering alone, with no friends because I've pushed them all away or they left, and that's really a sad way to live, right? It's better to get some help and stuff, but you just have to make sure that you're careful about what you do and choose to do, and think it out first. Think very carefully. That's very important. Have hope, it says. It is important that you know that you can and will feel better. And that's the truth right there. You know what I mean? In the past, you may have thought you would never feel better. So that was me. I thought it would just haunt me the rest of my life, right? And that the horrible symptoms you experience would go on for the rest of your life. And many people who have experienced the same symptoms that you are experiencing are now feeling much better. And they have gone on to make their lives the way they want them to be and to do the things they want to do. And I mean, that's the truth right there. That's why I love this article, because it really talks about, the hope, right? I mean, this is great. Like, that's the whole issue. I've seen too many other survivors out there who really are my mentors, you know what I mean? Like, I take a look around at all these survivor websites, and although I'm not in contact with these people, I'm not in direct contact with them. It doesn't matter. Just seeing their websites and reading their blog posts and whatnot, it allows me to see that I can do it too, right? And so that sort of helped me along because I've only been on my healing journey really for the last 3 years, and especially the last year. So, I'm relatively a newly sort of a feeling better person, quote unquote. I'm just recently starting to feel so much better, right? But the difference is really night and day compared to what I was feeling 3 years ago to now. And that's why I still remember. It hasn't been all that long. I remember exactly how I was feeling because I'm in the same living room. I'm in the same apartment. I'm just doing my shows from home, right? And so I'm in the same place with the furniture is all in the same place as it was 3 years ago because I haven't changed anything around. It's a very small apartment. And I remember that day when I sat there and actually made the decision to fight to live instead of fight to die, and it was in this very room. So that's the whole issue. It hasn't been all that long. And the whole idea is that each day I just feel a little bit more empowered. Each day I feel a little bit more stronger. And of course things come up that cause me to kind of, feel like everybody has bad days. I mean, show me a person on the planet who doesn't feel down or angry or grumpy or confused at any given time. I mean, it's just part of life, right? So we're not always going to have all these great days ahead. The whole issue is that I feel better now than I do worse. So every day that kind of goes by, I have more days that I'm feeling better than I feel bad. So that's the whole issue, and that's the tipping the scales. Having more good days than bad days. So that's where I'm at, right? I have so many more good days now than I used to, and so that's the whole issue, right? It does help, and it makes a huge difference because I'm not carrying that load, that heavy load that I was carrying for so long. On my own, right? And it was literally destroying me. So that's the thing. It's awesome to be able to do these shows and to let people know, hey, you can do it. If I can do it, if those other survivors can do it, and sit there and tell me they can do it, then I can do it. I know that. So that's why I just want to be one more voice to tell you, if you're listening and you're having a real hard time, that you can do it. It's so important that we know this. It says here, take personal responsibility. When you have been traumatized, you lose control of your life, and you may feel as though you still don't have any control over your life. You begin to take back that control by being in charge of every aspect of your life. Excuse me. Others, including your spouse, family members, friends, and healthcare professionals, will try to tell you what to do. Before you do what they suggest, think about it carefully. And do you feel that it is the best thing for you to do right now? If not, do not do it. You can follow others' advice, but be aware that you are choosing to do so. It is important that you make decisions about your own life, and you are responsible for your own behavior. Being traumatized is not an acceptable excuse for behavior that hurts you or hurts others. So take personal responsibility. I like that. That is just honesty right in everybody's face, right? Lots of people have advice, and lots of people try to tell people what to do. You know what I mean? Excuse me. And we have to ultimately be aware of what's going to make us feel better, and when we need to work on our healing, and when to do the jump on it. Many people will have some sort of an opinion or advice to throw in there, right? And it could be because they care, or maybe they're just butting in, right? I mean, there's many reasons why people do that sort of thing. Some people probably do care, and others probably just being nosy and trying to get their 2 cents in. So it's better not to do anything without thinking about it very carefully first regarding, treatments and how you're going to handle it. It's better to have a sort of a plan, a treatment plan for yourself before you even begin, looking at the whole thing, and see what kind of shape you're feeling, and what direction you want to go. And then you have to be very clear on what you want the outcome to be. You know what I mean? I think that's so important. We have to really be aware of what we want, what our needs are, what we want to see happen, and how we want to go about doing it. You know what I mean? Like, some people are just not comfortable with the whole idea of counselors and therapists. I know I wasn't, because there was a lot of mental and psychological issues in our family, and growing up under all that, I always felt kind of like maybe there's something wrong, like with me, maybe I was crazy, or maybe like my parents, right? And I kept thinking, well, maybe we're all just crazy, but actually some of the siblings kind of, we all handle it a little bit differently. There might be some mental illness there, and I wouldn't doubt it. But the issue is that, we actually, the ones that are left are coping quite well. But the thing is I mean, for someone to sit there and have, suicidal tendencies and thoughts for a period of, let's say, 30 years or 25 years anyway. That's not normal, and that's not healthy. So I knew there was something wrong, right? But I did not want to go get help, and I did not want to go get a counselor or therapist because I thought, oh man, they're just gonna use my information to hurt me instead of help me, right? That was my idea because my parents told us that the whole time we were young and growing up, right? Because my older siblings were, probably should have had help, right? But my parents were always discouraging everything because they didn't want to get busted for more child abuse because they had already been brought up on charges. So that's the whole issue. And so, group support for me was sort of a better way of looking at the whole thing. Excuse me, my allergies are terrible. I took an allergy pill, but it's just not helping. Yeah, the group support for me, I always thought, well, safety in numbers, I won't be singled out if I'm in a group setting, right? And I really like the group setting because, this way, you're just you can remain sort of in the background if you like, and you can sort of, you won't be like singled out. But some people like the I'm just typing something in the chat room here. Sorry about that. Some people like the whole idea of one-on-one support because they don't necessarily feel comfortable in a group. And so that's why I've read that quite a bit on different websites regarding, treatments and possible treatments for people and different kinds of therapy and whatnot. So, it's very important to there's someone in the chat room here. I'm just typing a message to you. It's very important to know what we need and what's going to make us feel comfortable, right? And I've seen that on too many websites, and so we have to take a good look at ourselves and what we need, right? And it says here, talk to one or more people about what happened to you. Telling others about the trauma is an important part of healing the effects of trauma, and make sure the person or people you decide to tell are safe people who would not hurt you and who understand that what happened to you is serious. They should know, or you could tell them, that describing what happened to you over and over is an important part of the healing process. And don't tell a person who responds with statements that invalidate your experience, like, that wasn't so bad, or you should just forget about it, forgive and forget, or you think that's bad, let me tell you about what happened to me. They don't understand. In connecting with others, avoiding spending all your time talking about your traumatic experiences. Spending time listening to others and sharing positive life experiences like going to movies or watching a ball game together, you will know when you have described your trauma enough because you won't feel like doing it anymore. So, isn't that's quite interesting. And you know what? That's just so true, right? We should, it says, these people should be there to help us, not hurt us more, right? So it says if you make sure the person is a safe person to tell, someone who's not going to hurt us and someone who understands what happened to you. And I mean, that's why, having a real good friend, a supportive friend, someone who will be there along the journey to help you out, but if you're just around more abusive people, then, that's what I try to remind people all the time is, think very carefully about the people that are in your life. Especially if you've been abused as a child, or a young person, or in a domestic violence situation where you've experienced abuse at the hands of someone else or sexual assault, do not allow other people to abuse you, right? I mean, I think that is so incredibly wrong. And I'm just not, I can't say it enough, right? Like, make sure that you have good people in your life, right? Don't allow yourself to hang around with people, even if it's family. There has to be some boundaries set, right? People do not, as children, we actually cannot fight, against that side of thing. If you're being abused and as a child, then you have really no way of getting help unless someone steps in for you, right? With intervention and whatnot. But if when you're an adult, really, you are responsible for who is in your life. Because as an adult, you have every right to have good people in your life or bad people in your life, and you choose who's in your life, and that's a fact. I made it very kind of clear to myself many, many years ago that I would not allow anyone to abuse me ever again, right? But in doing so, I had a little bit of a hard time with relationships because I didn't really trust people, especially men. And so, women too, but men in a relationship, because I had seen my parents' relationship and my dad, the way that he treated my mom, and then my mom, the way she treated him, but mainly because of what my dad had done to my mom. I didn't trust men very much, and so just watching that whole mess, right? So that's the whole thing. I was very much saying, okay, no one's going to hurt me again. In doing so, I would just shove people out of my life as fast as they came in, because the minute somebody would say something I didn't want to hear, or we'd have an argument, they were gone, so fast, right? I have no problem with shutting people out of my life. The problem being is that I lose good friends doing that, because people do make mistakes and people do say stupid things and do dumb things. But there's a difference between that, and someone who's genuine and apologizes, or maybe doesn't even apologize but just tries not to, tries to be a good person in your life. There's a difference between that and then people that are just purposely and psychologically or physically abusing you. And we know the difference between that. If you don't know, you need to find out. So I just think it's so important to not allow people, to abuse you, in your lifetime, whether, you've been a person who's had to deal with domestic violence and abuse or child abuse. It's just not right. Especially if you're abused as a child, to go on and allow yourself to be abused as an adult. And that's what quite often happens, re-victimization. Absolutely horrible. So make sure that you don't allow that to happen to yourself, right? It says here, develop a close relationship with another person. You may not feel close to or trust anyone, and this may be a result of your traumatic experiences. Part of healing means trusting people again. And think about the person in your life that you like best. Invite them to do something fun. If that feels good, make a plan to do something else together another time. Maybe the following week. It says keep doing this until you feel close to this person, and then without giving up on that person, start developing a close relationship with another person. And keep doing this until you have close relationships with at least 5 people. It says support groups and peer support centers are good places to meet people. So that's just the whole issue, right? If we've just gone through so much in our lives and we just don't trust people and have a real hard time developing any kind of a friendship or relationship with anyone, right, which can happen. Because it is hard to find people that are that kind of, that you can get along with, and that you find interesting enough to hang out with. It's just, that's the whole issue. And then if they're just rude, then of course, nobody wants that. So it's a good idea to sort of practice getting developing these relationships, because then you'll be able to start learning how to trust your own instincts, and whether or not you really can trust these people or not. You start to develop these instincts that you listen to your gut feelings, about people, and sort of make mental notes of what's happening. And like when you really define someone you can trust, that's who you look for in the next relationship. People that you can trust and that are good people, right? And so eventually, you end up with a lot of good people in your life, and that's important, right? So we have about 3 minutes left here. So things you can do every day to help yourself feel better. I like this part. It does give some good ideas. There's another whole set of adult survivor coping lists and whatnot on Child Abuse Monument website. Michael C. Irving, he's a sculptor, psychotherapist, sculptor. He's a survivor of child abuse himself, and he went on to try to help other people who have suffered child abuse, and also he's an artist. So he created this child abuse survivor monument in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And it's awesome. So you can just check it out at www.irvingstudios, IRVING or you can just type into your browser Child Abuse Survivor Monument, and it will bring it up. There's adult coping lists on there. And these adult coping lists are really awesome for people who have experienced any kind of trauma or child abuse. Tons and tons of it. But we'll go through this tomorrow morning. Things you can do every day to help yourself feel better, like read through the following list, do something fun or creative, get some exercise, things like that. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. We have about a minute left. So I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and I'm so happy to be, let me tell you. Check our website out, www.dreamcatchersforabusedchildren.com. And then tonight, Elizabeth Roberts-Brawley and myself will be on Dreamcatchers Talk Radio at www.blogtalkradio.com/Dreamcatchers. That's here on Blog Talk Radio, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Elizabeth Roberts-Brawley is the Southern Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children. She's a survivor herself. She's a mother. She's a grandmother. She's an awesome lady, and she's also works with missing persons, missing children, and she just works all the time to help people, and she's a very awesome lady. So I hope you will tune into that show tonight. We'll both be on there. And then, of course, my show after that, Child Abuse Prevention and Human Rights Abuse Prevention, is up to us shortly after that show. So have a great day, everybody. If I can help you find any resources, let me know. And if you need any help, just send me a message on Blog Talk Radio or Facebook or whatnot. If I can help you find some information or resources, I'm always happy to do that. And just make sure you take care of yourselves and keep reaching out. Don't sit there and suffer in silence. I think that's probably the worst thing a person can do. I did it for many, many years, and life can be a lot better if we do reach out and find some friends and get some help. Right? So take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you real soon. Bye bye.